a quick follow-up. Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit. In fact, according to the Council of Economic Advisors, this bill will save $1.6 trillion. And the president absolutely understands and hears the concerns of fiscal conservatives and of Americans who want to get our fiscal house in order. That's what the intention of this bill is. There's $1.6 trillion worth of savings in this bill. That's the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed Capitol Hill in our nation's history. The next bill that even comes close was $800 billion. That's less than half of the savings that we see in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so the goal of this bill is to produce economic growth, to cut taxes, and to get our fiscal house in order. And this is the right step in the right direction towards doing that.
To be unburdened by any semblance of truth or reality. Here's Donald Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, pretending that the Republican Party's budget bill doesn't add to the deficit, which would come as a surprise to math, considering it absolutely adds to the deficit. According to the Nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation, the bill as written would increase deficits by $3.8 trillion through 2034, or 1.1% of GDP. If all of its expiring policies are extended permanently, we estimate it would add $5.3 trillion to the deficit, or 1.5% of GDP. And that's in line with the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan agency whose entire job is to assess the fiscal impact of legislation, which estimates that Trump's tax package will increase the federal deficit by approximately $4.8 trillion over the next decade. In fact, every single credible economic analysis of this bill shows that it will add trillions to the deficit. And yet, that didn't stop Caroline Leavitt from claiming that, far from increasing the deficit, this bill will actually somehow save us money. And not just a little money either, $1.6 trillion. That is so far beyond misleading that we have entered some alternate universe where math and our shared reality simply don't exist anymore. And let's talk about this mysterious Council of Economic Advisors report that she's citing. I have looked everywhere, and there is simply no publicly available CEA analysis that shows Trump's tax bill saving $1.6 trillion. None. Zero. The CEA hasn't even published any major analysis of the bill's overall fiscal impact. If this report exists, which, let's be honest, it likely does not, then why isn't the White House blasting it everywhere? Why isn't every Republican in Congress waving it around over their heads? The answer is obvious. It does not exist. And Leavitt isn't just denying this reality, she is inverting it completely. She's not saying the benefits outweigh the costs or the economic growth will eventually offset the deficit, which would at least be somewhat defensible positions. No, she's claiming that there is no deficit impact at all, and instead there are savings. It's like being asked if you're concerned about gaining weight from eating an entire chocolate cake and responding that actually eating the cake will make you lose 20 pounds. And the fact that there are people who believe Donald Trump and his goons when they say stuff like this is exactly how Donald Trump is able to make millions of dollars selling shitty watches and shoes and hats and NFTs to a gullible base. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Leavitt goes on to claim that this is the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed Capitol Hill in our nation's history. Very, Sean Spicer, this is the biggest crowd we've ever seen. I mean, do I even need to explain how ridiculous this is? She is literally claiming that this tax cut bill, which every serious economist agrees will cost trillions, is actually the most fiscally responsible bill in American history, which actually kind of makes sense in that Republicans spend every single day beating their chest as these fiscal conservatives and then vote for legislation every single time that explodes the deficit. Back when Trump had unified control of government in 2017, their budget bill added $7.8 trillion to the debt. And then these people parade themselves around like they did something on the deficit. It is gaslighting so brazen, so divorced from factual reality, that it leaves you wondering if they think the American people are complete idiots or if they've simply given up on the concept of truth entirely. And notice how she keeps using the phrase, get our fiscal house in order. Again, this from an administration that has overseen one of the fastest increases in the national debt in history. The federal deficit has exploded under Trump's watch, even before this latest tax bill. And yet, here's his press secretary, with a straight face, claiming that they are fiscal conservatives concerned about deficits? This is the equivalent of someone maxing out their credit cards, taking out a home equity loan to pay for a luxury vacation, and then claiming they're really focused on their household budget and financial discipline. But perhaps the most telling part of this whole exchange is that phrase she used, one big beautiful bill. Those are Donald Trump's words coming straight out of Levitt's mouth. She is just regurgitating his exact talking points verbatim, no matter how divorced from reality they might be. When I say that Donald Trump puts these people in positions of power based solely on their willingness to shamelessly and unapologetically channel him and his lies, this is what I mean. If you are willing to sacrifice every shred of dignity and integrity and honesty, then good news, there is a place in Trump's White House for you too. And to that point, while we're already trafficking in abject delusion, why not just continue on?
President Trump and his top economic aides have repeatedly said that Americans will not pay the cost of tariffs. In fact, last week, Lutnick said people have to drop the, quote, silly arguments that consumers would pay the cost. But over the weekend, as you know, the president posted that Walmart should eat the tariffs and not charge the valued customer anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. So does he acknowledge that if companies don't absorb the full cost, Americans will have to pay?
Well, first of all, the CEO of Walmart made those comments about the tariffs on an earnings call where CEOs, I believe, are legally obligated to give the most dire warnings and forecasts to their investors and stakeholders. The reality is the president has always maintained Chinese producers will be absorbing the cost of these tariffs. And that is why China was so quick to hustle to the negotiating table with the United States of America. They need our markets.
Sure, why not just claim that China's going to absorb the cost of these tariffs, even though it was Donald Trump himself who just days ago wrote on Truth Social, Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. And so, armed with the apparent fact that tariffs are a tax on foreign countries, why in the world would Walmart need to, quote, eat the tariffs if they're not being paid for by Walmart or any American company, but rather by China or some other country? The answer, per usual, is that Trump is lying, and that he knows full well that our companies pay the tariffs and then they pass those costs on to our consumers. But he is trafficking in delusion because he's already pot committed, and so the goal here is for Trump to manipulate his supporters into believing his lies. And of course, when he issues the clarion call, his minions like Caroline Levitt get the message and lie for their boss. The truly dangerous thing here isn't just that Levitt is lying about the numbers. It is that this administration has created an environment where truth itself has become irrelevant, where you can say literally anything, no matter how demonstrably false, as long as it serves the preferred narrative. This isn't normal, this isn't how a functioning democracy is supposed to work, and we can't let this become the new standard for political discourse in America. So the next time you hear this administration claim that they're fiscal conservatives who are getting our fiscal house in order, remember this moment. Remember the fact that the definition of fiscal responsibility apparently includes adding trillions to the deficit while claiming you're actually reducing it. Remember that in Trump's America, up is down, black is white, and massive tax breaks for the wealthy somehow save money for the rest of us. And most importantly, remember that no matter how confidently they assert these lies, no matter how many times they repeat them, it doesn't make them true. Reality still exists, math still works, and the American people deserve a White House that at least operates in the same universe as the rest of us. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.